to start off with, could you describe the journey of Daily Chef? Like, what inspired you to create Daily Chef?
When I was out there doing my job, doing my business, going from meeting to meeting, from one place to the other, in the middle of the day, food becomes a challenge. And while we have a lot of things like Swiggy and Uber Eats and Dunzo, whatnot, I personally felt that eating outside food, restaurant food, is something that does not work in the long term. You can do it once or twice, but if you've got a hectic schedule, you need to be able to feed your body healthy, everyday, home cooked food so you can function well as you go along your day. It's just the way it is. It's how your body works. And so I miss that, especially when I used to be, before the lockdown, I used to be traveling from city to city. I had projects in a couple of cities. So, the thing is, when I was traveling a lot, my wife, at that time, we didn't have children. So my wife used to have to, cook a tiffin for me, especially if it was overnight. And I would carry it on the plane. And I would, then look for a microwave where I was staying. If I was in a hotel, I would say, "Khana garam karke de do mere ko." It used to get very difficult because, if you're traveling 3-4 days a week, even if it's not by air, even if it's by road, it takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your ability to think. Your digestion is something that is an integral part of the way you function on a daily basis. It keeps your mind clear. It keeps you intelligent. It keeps you aware. It keeps you thinking. It keeps you focused. So all those things really were missing in my life, when I used to be doing all that. So that's where it really came to me about 3 years ago when I was traveling. I said, you know what, because I used to be I used to be in Ahmedabad, or I used to be in Goa, and I used to be, staying in an Airbnb or something. And every evening at 5 or 6 o'clock, I would be coming home, and, you can smell the food in your neighbor's house. Someone's cooking something, and you are like, either you're out of food because the food became too old, because you forgot to eat it, or, then you're looking at Swiggy and saying, "Acha, should I eat momos today, or should I eat dal makhani today?" Or, so it doesn't feel great to have to do that on a regular basis. It's amazing to do it once in a while, but not regularly. So I felt, why can't I have the option of having my neighbor send over a meal to me? I can just go on an app, request the meal that she's making right now. I can smell it, no? So I'll request it. Please give me 2 rotis, some dal, some sabzi. You're cooking it, I know, and I'm willing to pay you for it. Just I'll come and take it from you, or you give it to me. This way I get to eat freshly made homemade food. I get to meet my neighbors. I get to share in the culture of the city that I'm in. It helps me create a social interaction instead of living this isolated sort of, life where I come to an Airbnb, I don't talk to anybody, I just put my bags and I go to work and I come back. And so, it created, so the idea just was all about, it started with not having access to freshly made food, homemade food, but it grew from there to the idea that, because food is something that, as a species, as human beings, we connect over. You break bread when you make friends. You go out, someone invites you to dinner to their house, or you go to a restaurant. So many things are done over food. And so I thought, why not? Why not have this sort of at least have the option?
Yes. So could you describe your entrepreneur journey before starting Daily Chef? So you were also there in real estate as well as luxury fashion label.
Yes. So real estate is something I got into around 2011 when I came back from America. I got my MBA in Bentley University. And frankly, I got into it because there was some family connection with real estate. And also because it felt like a very lucrative opportunity at that time. I came back looking for opportunity in India. And I thought it looked like something that could give a kickstart to my career. So I started working. I got a few projects on my own as a contractor. I made one of the first projects I did was this house that I built for my friend's father. And so one step led to the other, and then in about 5 years I had a small company with a small team, and we were doing. We did some good work. We did some good luxury projects in Delhi and Goa, also some in Noida, and it just kind of grew, So as I went along, it grew with me, and I grew with it. But around 2019, 18 actually, I finished whatever my lot was. I finished my last contract, and I strategically decided to pull away from construction. I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. It was not something that I saw myself in when I was 50 years old or 60 years old. It wasn't my idea of the ideal career option for me. So at the same time, I got the opportunity to work with some very talented people who were founding a sustainable luxury brand. So why I got involved with them was because while I was in the construction industry, I got exposed to the dark reality of construction and how damaging it is to the environment. You can try and do the best you can, but you will cause a lot of damage to the area that you're constructing in. There'll be dust pollution, there'll be air pollution, water, and invariably there is, the materials are coming in, cement is there's steel coming in, it's noisy, it's polluting, it's a very harsh environment, not only for the people working there, but for the neighbors around and even the environment in general. So I got the opportunity to kind of try and start giving back through this sustainable luxury label, and I took it because I felt very strongly that I needed to give back to the environment. So that's how I got involved, and I was part of the core team during the co-founding process. I was part of the co-founders in the beginning. They brought me on board because at that time I was the most experienced person, the only business person they had online who knew the ins and outs of daily running a company, and the challenges that come with administration and with getting the right kind of team involved, getting the right kind of people on board, so that there is a synergy in the whole team. So I was part of that core crew, and then I stayed with them. I'm still with them. I'm still part of the advisory committee. But I've taken a back seat because those guys are now fairly organized. They've managed to create a good name for themselves. They work in Goa right now primarily, and they've grown well. They've actually become cash positive in the last 3 months. They did very well, surprisingly, during COVID in Goa. It was very surprising, but it was a very positive and happy surprise. So I figured, these guys know what they're doing now. So I'm back. And by then I had, I had started my own venture, Daily Chef. So it was getting a little difficult for me to move back and forth as a full-time co-founder there and founding and trying to grow and establish Daily Chef. So I took a back seat, and here we are.
So you are being part with multiple segments like real estate, travel, and even the fashion. So how could you manage multiple starters? Like you said, recently you said like you were facing some kind of difficulties like managing both. So what was your best thought and what was your downfall as a serial entrepreneur?
So I really can't say that I'm a serial entrepreneur. I don't understand frankly what that term means personally. I mean, I know what it means, but I'm not sure that I really conform to the definition of serial entrepreneur, doing back-to-back new ventures and businesses. I don't think that's how one can be successful, happy in life. Personally, I think you pick up one project, and I pick up one project and I focus on it. The project that I pick up must resonate with me at that time, the person I am, and it must also grow with me as I grow with it. So I have never been in the middle of 2 or 3 sort of businesses at the same time. It's never been a sort of a parallel activity. It's always been, one business is established enough that I don't need to be there on a daily, regular basis. So that is when I, start focusing my energies on something else. Also, it's not something that I'm compelled to do, but I've been fortunate that I have managed to come across these ideas and ventures at the right time that got me interested enough to want to focus on them. So it was a synergy really in my life that I was looking for something to do and something came up. and it kind of and the timing fit. So since this is the third time I'm seeing it happen to me in the last 6 years, I'm beginning to understand that it's also about the energies that you give out and the energies you receive into the world and the people that you're with. Because if you are genuinely willing to get out of your comfort zone and look around you and see, okay, I've got this thing going. How can I be more helpful? How can I add more value to myself, to the people around me, to the environment, to as many people as possible? As I've honestly always had that attitude, and that has always brought me close to people who have shared in my own value systems. So I'm able to work with them, create a nice synergy, create a level of understanding, and there's a lot of learning that goes into it, and it's always been an enriching experience for me.
So Daily Chef is built on sharing economy model. What are your thoughts on on the sharing model, sharing economy model for next 5 to 10 years?
See, I'm not a fortune teller, but so I really can't say, and especially with COVID, things have really been back and forth. But what I do believe is, this is, again, it's a very personal view. But what I do believe is that if the sharing economy is here to stay, we have been, if you look back towards even look at the Industrial Revolution, and then you look at the Henry Ford 1900s, where they created this assembly line and all that, and it's led to the modern business structures. So the legacy systems that we inherited from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, before the IT boom, really, and even during the IT boom, of America, and then coming into India. Eventually what happens is, if the company gets big enough, it silos people. It puts you into certain slots, and this is what you do. And engineering doesn't talk to marketing, and marketing doesn't talk to business development, and business development doesn't talk to finance. All this happens, and that sort of environment that people are living in and spending time in 8-10 hours a day, Monday to Friday, sometimes even Saturday and Sunday, that sort of isolation and that sort of isolation comes into your life. And so you start getting isolated within yourself, and you start becoming and then you're able, you're looking for connections. You're trying to find connections, because as human beings, we need to connect with other human beings. It's part of who we are. It's actually part of what makes us who we are. And so with COVID coming in, with work from home coming in, and with us all dealing with the unprofessional things, like there is no light, or your kid walks in or something like that, it's bringing work into a level of reality within the home, that you are a human being who lives a life surrounded by other people who are around you in various capacities. So these things this is real. This is what life real. There is traffic on the roads. There are people honking outside. This is real. It's not, you're not in some sterile office environment where everybody's wearing these suits and pretending like, okay, we are so important, or we are so robotic, and it's about expanding your vision of your life. So coming back to what you asked me, I think sharing economy is here to stay. I think it's going to grow, and I think it's rooted in something which makes every human being real. And the sharing economy, where you're sharing, because sharing is all about getting out of your little bubble and putting yourself out there, and letting somebody see a version of you that is very private, and I think that's the way to go forward, instead of being isolated. And we have all been isolated for 2 years now. So I think we've all had our fill of being isolated. I think we all also, maybe I can say for myself, that I have understood the value of sharing genuine interaction with another person. I have understood that value. And a huge part of that, I'm just going to bring Daily Chef into this, because it is also a big part of why Daily Chef exists right now, is that I believe that sharing food from your kitchen, made for yourself or for people you love, and sharing with a complete stranger, is exactly that. You're putting yourself out there. You're saying, hey, look, this is what we eat every day at home. It's kept us healthy. Our kids are strong. Our family is healthy. We are intelligent, hygienic, clean people. And we're willing to share this with you. Do you want to get a taste of what it's like to be part of our family for 1 hour? And on the other side is the foodie who is hungry and is not looking for this impersonal restaurant packaging food, which has got this generic taste. You are interacting with somebody. They are letting you in. They are letting down their barriers and boundaries and saying, you know what, come be part of our family for an hour. And you're like, okay. So you get that feeling of connectedness. It makes all the difference. That's what makes food real. Yes.
So you started Daily Chef during the pandemic. It's been from April or March of 2020. What are the challenges you faced during this almost one and a half year?
Oh, the biggest challenge I faced was I had been a solo founder. The success that I got in my construction company, I was a solo founder. So the biggest challenge I faced was to admit to myself that I need people. I need somebody who can take some of the burden off, the burden where my expertise doesn't lie. So that for me was actually the tech part of it. I am not a coder, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a UI specialist. I know a little bit about it as I have grown with the Daily Chef. I've learned a little bit of stuff. I've picked up a few words here and there, but I am not an expert at it. I cannot build the app single-handedly. So although I did spend 6 months creating on the creative front, I created the logo by hand. I literally sat there and drew. I have an Apple Pencil and an iPad, and I just would sit there 3, 4, 5 hours a day, just creating the diagrams, creating the flow, creating the string diagrams, creating the how's the foodie going to experience it. I had it clear in my head and I drew it all down step by step. But to actually make that vision reality, finding the right people, finding the right tech team was extremely difficult in the beginning. And it took me a long time, and then actually took me 8 months. I did create an MVP. So I had to scrap that. And then a friend of mine from engineering college, he stepped in and he said, okay, I'm going to work with you on this. And he's a tech guy. He's a senior developer, self-taught, full stack engineer. So he is somebody who's working very closely with me. And now we are about 2 weeks from launching an MVP that is still not complete, but it's something that I don't mind showing the world. I can show it to the world and say, you can guys use this, see how you feel, share love, share food, help people sitting at home who have, COVID has had people losing jobs left, right, and center. It's been terrible on the average Indian. Everybody's felt the pinch. Everybody's had to go through some really hard times. And Daily Chef, in the short term, for me, in the long term, it becomes a community of people. It becomes a large community of people who are sharing not just food, but they're sharing love. They're sharing themselves with each other, and they're welcoming people into their homes. Sometimes literally, once COVID is over, sometimes metaphorically by sharing the meal that they cook for themselves. So, but that's the long-term vision that I have. For the short term, I believe Daily Chef is a way for people who are facing financial difficulties right now to be able to add that little bit of extra earning to their monthly income. So that if nothing else, I've done the calculations. If a person is regularly selling on Daily Chef and say able to sell about 5 to 7 meals a day, which is really no big deal because you're able to sell breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks if you choose. So 5 to 7 meals a day is not something that is a huge challenge, but 5 to 7 meals a day, 5 to 6 days a week, I can promise you that your kitchen will be free. So whatever money you spend on buying dal, roti, sabzi, masalas or whatever, all that expense, not only will Daily Chef feed your family for the month, but they will also make sure that that money is not actually is returned to you through selling that food to another person who will appreciate the food you're cooking. So you're passing on health and love, and you're getting in return support, financial support when you need it the most. So it kind of creates that sort of, again, I use the word synergy a lot, but it is true. Synergy is something that I believe in. Creating synergy in your life, creating synergy in everything that you do is very important. And Daily Chef can allow people to create that synergy, and it will take the pressure off. You know, you don't need to be a specialty cook who knows how to cook fancy lasagnas and pastas. You don't need that. There is a Daily Chef in every home. If you cook dal roti, you're a Daily Chef. If you cook pizza, you're a Daily Chef. As long as you're cooking at home for yourself and your family with love and care, you are a Daily Chef.
Great thought, Aditya. So it's a way that we have built a Daily Chef. It's really it has some like long-term value, and even the short-term, that what you mentioned, of course, it has some like good value for anyone to use the app or to provide some kind of a food or love with the neighbors or the community. What are the 3 important traits or skills for any entrepreneur to be successful?
Do you understand the word Sanyam? I think it's a Sanskrit Hindi word. It's fine. So for the non-Hindi speaking audience that you cater to and that exists in the large part of the world, Sanyam means poise, patience. It gives you the ability to have discretion. I believe to be an entrepreneur, primarily you must have an ability to have discretion. You must give yourself the opportunity to think. You must give yourself the option in any situation. You must, as an entrepreneur, must give yourself the opportunity to respond, not react. That is one of the most, that is what I think entrepreneurship can really be built on. A level of Sanyam. Once a person is able to bring that into their life, and that actually brings a level of positivity to everything you do. And as you go along in life, as you get married, you have children, your family expands, your businesses expand, your work expands. You know, it adds a lot of value. It gives you a level of stress reduced ho jata hai. You don't need to be stressed out. You're never stressed out. You are aware of what's going on around you. Prioritizing becomes easier. So Sanyam is something that I think everybody should practice in life. But as an entrepreneur, I think it's something that you should really bring into yourself. To find everything else kind of stems from there. So, we can talk about having drive or having patience or having perseverance or, all those great words. But none of that can be kept long term. It's about having a long term ability to hold on to these things. You can have drive to escape a dog that is chasing you. I mean, you will be driven to escape, but it won't last very long. Those are bursts. So, but as an entrepreneur who wants to be in it, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you're not in it for the long haul. It's not a shortcut. You can't do, okay, I'll be an entrepreneur for 2 years, I'll make one, fancy thing and then maybe I'll be rich. Doesn't work like that. That is not that. Go to a casino, you have better chances there. It costs also less and it's less stressful. You might have some fun also. That's not how you do it. So if you have Sanyam, if you have that kind of ability to have discretionary thought regularly, if you can observe what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and based on that observation, you can behave accordingly, according to situation, according to the person in front of you. That will give a lot of, it's like a superpower really. Nothing troubles you. And it is challenging to be an entrepreneur. It is very difficult. It's not easy. Not that anything else is easy in life that you really want to get to. Everything is hard. Everything requires a level of dedication and perseverance. But entrepreneurship is unusually challenging. So you need Sanyam, I believe. Everything else stems from that.
Since you are in service industry, like what are the measures that you take for in terms of health standards or in terms of the quality of service? And because it's more towards a sharing model that the way the Daily Chef is presented, like there is some issue with the other food. So what are the steps that you take as a part of Daily Chef?
Again, it's what I understand. The whole concept behind Daily Chef is that food is being cooked at home for people who are living in that house by somebody who's been cooking that food for those people for a long time, years even. Someone like your mom, like you said, like she's been cooking food. Your friends probably come over when you were in college. They would come over, have a meal or two, or so it's like everybody's mom or dad or grandma or whoever is responsible for feeding the family. That person does not have the intention. The intent is very important in a sharing economy. It is all about intent. It's all about creating a level of trust. Even if you look at other companies like Uber or Airbnb, I mean, you go and live in someone's house with Airbnb. You rent a room sometimes. You're sharing space with complete strangers. It's all about trust. The sharing economy is based on a level of trust that the next guy, the human being that I am trusting, will come through on certain parameters. So here what we're doing is with Daily Chef is that the quality is something that is, I think it's part of the DNA of the company, because the person who's making the food is not someone who's got who's doing a job and today they just didn't, it was their day off, but their boss called them and said, no, the guy who was supposed to come didn't come, so you come and cook for that guy. It's not like that. The Daily Chef, the person is somebody who's cooking for love. They're cooking to feed their family, or they're going to feed themselves. So the way you do it, the approach to it is very different from a restaurant or a commercial establishment where people are just there to do a job. So quality of the food, I really don't think there will really, I don't think there will be a problem with regard to quality of food. I mean, if I was sitting next to you today, if we had not been doing the Zoom call and we were sitting at lunchtime and you opened your tiffin and offered me some food, I would eat it. You would say, my mom made this. I would not think twice.
Correct.
So that's the trust, that is the trust of Daily Chef. That is the trust we have with in the sharing economy. That's how we live. And it's not just in India. This is everywhere. If someone's you're sitting in a meeting, we offer food. We always offer food. And the other person usually takes it because you trust the person offering the food. So the quality of food is not something I think will be an issue. We will, as time goes on, I've thought of the way I'm like I said, after getting out of the construction industry, I have had this realization, a very real realization. I mean, we are taught about environment, and when I was in the 90s growing up, Captain Planet cartoons and all that used to happen. But after looking at it directly in the eye, I've realized how sensitive the ecological balance is, and how important it is for not just us who are right now young and strong, but the elderly of the world who need us to make sure that we are not messing things up, and the children who we're bringing in. So I'm going to bring in a lot of environmentally conscious concepts, starting with packaging. We're in talks to tie up with a few eco-conscious food packaging suppliers, 100% biodegradable boxes. So that's one step that I've already thought of, and we're already in, it's already in play. It will be provided. The other thing is, again, coming back to, eco-consciousness, there was a statistic I read about 3 months ago. I saved it somewhere on my computer, but I'm not going to waste time looking for it. But so don't hold me to the figure. But there is, the average Indian household wastes about, I think it was 300 kilograms or 400 kilograms of food every year. This statistic, we are food wasters now. Something that when I was growing up, we used to hear about other foreign countries that, they throw away food. India has become a food waster now. So that's bad. We have a lot of hungry people in the world, in our country. It's not okay that we are becoming food wasters. So, So again, coming back to it, why does that happen? It happens because primarily, I guess it happens because whenever we do cook, if you're cooking for 2 or 3 people at home, we cook a little extra food because it should not be less. We always have leftovers, right? At least one extra meal every time you cook. There'll be 2 chapatis, a little bit of dal, some sabzi, always left over. So, but as a culture, we're also used to cooking fresh food every meal, right? So the old food, it goes to the fridge, then it goes to the back of the fridge. Then after 2 days, someone is looking for something and they say, oh, this dal is left from 3 days ago. I'm not going to eat it. Okay, so you throw it. So it's just that it's little things. But because we are so many of us as a population, that little stuff really adds up. So again, Daily Chef allows you to stop that wastage. You're anyway cooking extra, 2-3 meals.
You can
give it to someone who's going to pay you for it and be grateful. Why do you want to throw it away in 2 days? So it comes back and it adds a level of quality to the way we live. We are being conscious of the food of the food we are cooking. We're conscious of the quantities we are cooking. There is a purpose behind it, a purpose which is beyond just feeding the family. There's something more. So you're adding a little bit extra to your everyday routine, something that you've been doing for 20 years. So, it's just an additional quality. It's an additional increase of life quality, because you are bringing in a level of conscious activity in something that you've been doing for so many years, something that you can do while watching TV mostly, right? So you become conscious, and that little bit of consciousness that you bring into even this one activity that you do in your day, that consciousness of that awareness of what am I doing right now, that becomes a habit that comes into your entire life in time, giving you a life of actual peace and awareness, and Sanyam aa jata hai. You get Sanyam. You build it in. Take one activity that you do regularly and you bring awareness into it. And that awareness will seep through, because your mind is like a sponge. So not only for negative things, not only for Bollywood and Hollywood movies, our mind is a sponge for good things also, for positive things also. So this one thing brought into our daily routine of consciously cooking an extra meal, instead of saying, oh, I'll make a little bit extra, it'll get left over, doesn't matter. Consciously cooking that extra meal or two will bring a level of consciousness to everything you do, giving you a level of peace in your daily life. And I don't know how old you are, but I am 35, and I've begun to value peace in life tremendously. When I was younger, I didn't care.
So one final question, Aditya. So what is your advice for any entrepreneur or any person who's running business?
I don't think I have that kind of success under my belt that I can give advice, frankly.
But experience?
My experience has taught me that always do what you believe in. Don't fake it. That whole concept of faking it till you making it, personally, it didn't work for me. I was super stressed. My quality of life, I was making money, no doubt. I was making a lot of money then, but my quality of life was not great, because what I was doing was, like I said in the beginning of the interview, I got into construction with the mindset that, okay, this is a lucrative career, and it was. But as I went along, my quality of life on a daily basis was what I was compromising on. My mind, my peace of mind was not there. So whatever idea, big or small, doesn't matter. Believe in what you're doing, and to be able to really believe in it, I'm bringing back Sanyam. You must be able to introspect that, why do I believe in this? What is it about this idea that is talking to me personally? And once you have those answers, it's not hard. It's about introspection. It's about being quiet and peaceful. Once you have a couple of these things, you can implement it anyway. It doesn't matter if you start a business or if it's something that you do to improve your efficiency at your job. It doesn't matter if it's something that you do to improve your efficiency in your daily life. It will just give you a level of peace and satisfaction and happiness on a very regular. It's a dose of happiness. It's a daily dose of happiness. So you just.
Thanks, Aditya. Thanks for it. So your learning lessons experience will definitely help out any entrepreneur who's watching this video. And
I hope so.
Definitely. All the best for your future interviews.
Thank you so much.